My hope is that you get something valuable from this talk today. The t-shirt I'm wearing today, it has a bit of a story. It was 7 months ago, I was working from Japan on this very project. And at that time, I was facing many challenges going over it. You cannot imagine how many. And today is again with me, but in a very different story, where I'm wearing it with all these challenges that have been already passed, and they are no longer a challenge. So it's kind of a bit of poetic to have it today with me. And talking about challenges, no, it's not the screen, the blue screen of death. I want us to do an imagination exercise between all of us, okay? Don't look at there. So imagine an old house. And you can start to see that it's a bit aged. The wiring system, it works, but it's a bit outdated. The plumbing, maybe someone from the back will tell me, but Alejandro, now with these LLMs, Gen AIs, why don't we give this a reality? Something fair enough. What about this? Is it close to what you were imagining? Not much illumination, but it's still getting on the description. It's an old house with an old wiring system. The plumbing will benefit from some work, but it works smoothly. Until you realize that, oh, there is this new LED system that I would like to install because it has these improvements on energy consumption and I will save cost. But then you realize, okay, then I need to change all the wiring system, all the electrical system of the home to be able to install it. And then you start, yes, and I want to do this without losing my lighting. I want my appliances to still work. And at the same time, I don't want to cut my neighbor's electricity. So for me, this is what moving to Pydantic V2 felt like. What about this? Looking cool, right? But the problem is that this is where I want to get. This is a vision, but how do I get there? And that's the challenging part that we are going to be talking today. During my professional career, I love SKCD. During my professional career, I have interviewed with multiple software engineers. And when talking with them, it seems that doing migrations is a very common task from successful companies. It's something that you see, and then you understand how important that you started something that works, deliver value, but then with time, it might not longer fit the purpose when you created it. And most of the times, you end up in this part doing migrations. But what if you actually have to touch this small piece? Who dares changing that? Well, this is what we're going to be today for TravelPerk. Talking a bit about me, I'm Alejandro. I'm representing today here TravelPerk, a company that was founded in 2015. And it has been, I joined in 2017, and I have seen how it has grown from 50 employees when I joined to more than 1,300 employees. And regarding the engineering department, we were around a growth of more than 230 engineers. So you can see that something that we started at that time, it has to grow with the volume of the company. Now we have 6 tribes with more than 30 teams. We are running multiple services. How do you change this small piece as the company grew? We have presence over multiple countries, and our engineering hubs have presence in Spain, UK, and Berlin. So we have to coordinate all these changes across all these offices. And as well, thinking our clients. So our clients are companies that they want their employees to book a trip, mostly flights, trains, cars, hotels, and all that under the budget that the company has set. And we serve more than 30,000 travelers per day. We cannot lay down these people. They need to travel. I cannot do, like in the house I was talking, I cannot disrupt them. So what is smooth? Anyone can understand by their own what it means. For me, when I was designing this talk and in the project, I wanted this. I wanted that there will be no disruptions. People can still travel. They can go anytime. If someone is booking from US or is booking from Asia, they can travel. Zero disruptions. And at the same time, I'm not blocking any of my teams. Anyone from my team can still deliver the value they want for our customers. And at the same time, no one notices. No one. I added an asterisk because technicality, you want someone to notice because the system has improved. There is some value while doing this migration. Let's talk about Pydantic. How many of you know this library? Hands up. Okay. I see there is an audience here. So in Travel Perk, we've been using Pydantic for several years, and we started with version 1. And the usage we've been doing of it is mostly sharing models between different services. So we create our entities, and they can be shared across the different services. And at the same time, we do data validation. We ensure what we are sharing has specific types, a structure, and also we use it for serialization. We send it back to JSON between the services. And this is the usage we are doing of it. So you can imagine how we were feeling when version 2 came out. We were having some issues, and we say, okay, for new services, we are all in V2. Start using it, and then we learn what are those improvements. And why we were doing that? Why not? Why should we not move? Well, there were, from the beginning, reading that, good reasons to do the migration. It was promising between 4x to 50x improvements in speed. And this is thanks to Rust, moving all this core library to Rust. At the same time, there is a strict mode. Now, by default, coercion is disabled. If you want it back, you will have to set it. It's challenging, but it's more strict. You will make sure that there is nothing weird happening, and then you don't get surprises. And it was aligning with the movement that we were saying, okay, we start moving to V2. We need to go all in. It's going to be difficult if we have some services running in V1 and other services running in V2. They provided a migration guide, and they state in the announcement that they provided an extensive migration guide. What is extensive? So I was thinking of how to better show that this is extensive. So I recorded myself scrolling down the web page and the things that it goes, goes, and goes, and goes, and goes. So it's freaking scary you applying this breaking migration. It is. It has to be taken with caution. Normally, when you update the library, you go check the breaking changes, say, okay, I'll be careful. With this, you have to be very careful. But let's get into code. This is the part I most like. I have divided now this process of upgrading the large code base to Pydantic V2 with different chapters, okay? These 5 chapters, the first one is into the unknown. You're gonna get into, okay, what are we getting into? Remember this, our plan. This was my initial plan, because when I got into this, I didn't have a plan. But these requirements, upgrade to Pydantic V2, those services in V1, make it smooth with all the conditions of what is smooth for me. And then it has to be incremental. No one can be blocked because, oh, sorry, you might need to upgrade to this new library. So let's put into the system. And the first question that you might make to yourself, okay, how many Python repositories do we have in the company? What are we getting into? So it turns out that we have more than 100 of them. And then, okay, I can work with that. And the next question I will do myself, I have to build a script to know this. How many of them are running Pydantic V1 that they will need to get updated to V2? Well, there were 64. And I wish this was not a reality because I'm mocking most of the information. It was not the case. I have to go over those ones. So let's get into one of those projects and see how it's composed. We use pipcompile in TravelPair that help us trace where libraries are coming from. And in this case, we saw that apart from being set in the requirements, it was coming from another library that we call, it's not the case, TK models. I have mocked most of the data, so I can do this presentation. If we go over other projects, it was the same case, more and more. Okay, next question is, how many of them are using TK models? A lot of them. And that was a nightmare for me because I have to go to change this one library that is used everywhere. So we run to the next chapter now. Oh, TK models, what should I do with you? So let's get inside TK models. We check how things are imported. In this case, on the left, we have base Py, normal import, Pydantic, import base models, the same in the places. And the thing is that Pydantic V2 has a retro compatibility with V1. So technically, if I add this V1, this will work if I do install Pydantic V2. This will work, and we are running Pydantic V2. So hooray, we're done. Let's go grab a drink. It's done. But wait for it, because we are running it in compatible mode. So we are lying to ourselves. We are actually running Pydantic V1 behind. Okay, fair enough. So what should we do here? We are in this moment of, okay, there is multiple options to take here. Should we go through the option of, look, I'm going to take this library, I'm going to make it support only V2. I don't care about the rest. Option number one. Option number two, fork the library, and we have two libraries. And then one is TK models 2, and another one is TK model 1, and you choose to install. That's another good option. There was the three that make the current one support everything. Is multiple support, you just install it, it will work, or none of the above. Which one do you think we want for? Yes, 3. We want for the multi-support. To be honest, the other options, depending on if it's large or not large code base, could be options that are valid. But in this case, for a large code base, no breaking changes, you install it and it works. So we went to that option. So we get to chapter 3, the Pydantic multiverse. Okay? So one thing that we started here was, I'm not going to allow importing Pydantic. I'm going to create one base class that will have all the imports. So this is the Pydantic base.py. And now I have these booleans. Is Pydantic V1, is Pydantic V2 in compatible mode, or is Pydantic V2? I support everything. So it's easy because at the end you detect, okay, which version of Pydantic I have installed. If it's version 1, I'm going to use is Pydantic V2. If I have version 2, I'm going to add a boolean that will allow me setting in which mode it is running. So I will allow running it in compatible mode, or I will allow, no, this is pure Pydantic, and everything that is extending from this library is going to be pure Pydantic. With this, we allow this. And you will tell me, Alejandro, line 12 and line 18 are exactly the same. Why are you duplicating? Well, in this case, because I'm already overseeing that I will do a cleanup later. So for me, it will be cleaner and easier to do the cleanup later. So I'm setting myself already some easy work in the future. But it doesn't stop there. Pydantic is coming with many breaking changes. We were using, for example, in Pydantic V1, decimal validator. And in Pydantic V2, now there are other things from Pydantic core that are coming, like core schema. What happens if I run this as it is? You get an error because you haven't defined what is decimal validator. And how do we solve it? Well, I was setting them to known. So if you're trying to import it, it's fine, it's known. But I didn't want to add on the beginning ifs. I will control it down below. So that was simple to do. And it doesn't stop there. More breaking changes. In this case, the problem I was having was with the validators. They changed the functions for validation. We have root validator V1. Well, in this case, I make my name V1 to identify them. But now it's coming with field validator and model validator. And what's the problem with this? They even changed the signature of the function. So they are completely different functions. What do we do in this case? Because this is a tricky one. Where we were using, we cannot use them anymore. Let's get into an example. Validator, okay? In this function, we try to validate this payload with all these settings. The idea was thinking, how can I make still this work? Because I don't want to change everywhere where is validator as it is, and also support the new function that Pydantic is introducing. Well, I did my own decorator that will inject the function that I want. At the end, this decorator, what it's doing is in the 2 square, I realize it doesn't, size is not good. There's red boxes. The first one will be the field validator, that is the new one, that is being injected when you call the function, and is modifying in the upper part all the parameters to be working with Pydantic V2 or V1, depending on what you're using. And then if not, we use V1 as normal. With this trick, I don't have to change the code all over. So this code, if we are using Pydantic V2, well, the one that is in the red box, will behave as done below. Exactly, it's compatible now. So now we can start going and replacing wherever we have Pydantic, import Pydantic, to import TK models Pydantic base. So we are bringing base model, config tick, is Pydantic V2, and this boolean is going to be very helpful because there are things that have changed as well in Pydantic V2. Again, they have changed how you define the configuration of a class. They have changed the config to a config ticked. And now this comes handy because I can import, I do it as normal. You remember that if I'm importing something that is not available, it will be known. And then I decide if I use it or not. Okay, but this now we have a base model that can be used in other entities. So we can create our own first entity, passenger. Every travel company has a passenger. And in this case, we need to even refine more the configuration because we have created an alias and we have to modify the base class. Now, again, the boolean is useful because we can inject the dictionary. Passenger model is now in the Pydantic multiverse. Amazing. And let's go to chapter 4, all those tests. And this was not an easy thing. Not as easy. I was sharing this with a colleague. Today, I will be hidden. I need to finish those 30 tests that are failing. So if you will not find me. But imagine this, how I was that there are only 30 left when I was coming from here, where are 172 tests failing. And you think, oh, I thought I was dumb. Not close, not close. I want to show you some cases interesting because with tests, you start identifying breaking changes. The first one was on how the config dig is propagated. And I thought, okay, we have this fixture on tests that are modifying how the TK-based model works. And we were injecting a param. This doesn't work in Pydantic V2. Why? Because if we try to modify the parent in Pydantic V1 in the configuration, it automatically will update the children. Not in Pydantic V2. Now we have to iterate over the childs and update their configuration because it's a dictionary that doesn't, it gets copied and they have their own copy. So breaking changes start appearing in the test. But there was another case that was interesting, coercion. So in coercion, we were saying that Pydantic V2 is strict and doesn't allow coercion. But if you use a custom validation, it's more intelligent now. Because I have tests failing on trying to, in this TK time that we have defined, now these lines that are in red boxes, now they work. They are able to, if I pass in foo, in the line 10, 120, it's able to serialize that. Or if I pass a string with time, and I add the seconds, as well, it's serialized. Okay, what is this magic? How is done? Well, I modified this validate function now to use the Pydantic V2 standard one. And it includes a handler that will select what is the type that is being passed to validate. So what is happening here underneath in the validate function? Before with Pydantic V1, we were passing an int, okay? Foo t equal 12. That's an int for validate. But anything with Pydantic V2, because it's been transformed to time, it will always be at daytime. So it's always getting on the line 18 because it's always time. So we are able to convert, even if it's an int, it will convert to time and pass it as time. Again, breaking changes appearing them. And this was another one interesting to show. We have a test, I don't know why, things happen, that wanted to test that if you use a validate method and you try to do a pop line 14 while you're doing validation and you call dict, it actually removes every time you do dict the value of the mutable list. So if you see in line 20, 21, 22, every time we do dict, it gets removed. And why I'm the line 1 skipping this test? Because it's not happening anymore in Pydantic V2. They do a deep copy of the dictionary. So every time you do it, this will not happen when you call validation. Now we go to chapter 5. There is a package for you. So how do we deliver this to our teams? On this setup, there was one. Now there are two setups. And line 6 is an important one because we want to do signaling when we are using compatible mode. So in this case, TK models have Pydantic V2 compatible mode set to true for version 1. We want compatible mode. And on the right, we have it set to false. And then we are enabling package data, this config JSON, include package data true. So we will include package data, and I will inject this config to a file that is there in config JSON when I'm building the package. So when I'm running, when I am initiating this library, I will load it. I will read this package. So this package was delivered with this configuration. And now I can do buildings. This build on the left, building setup V1, will build a library that has support for Pydantic V1 and Pydantic V2 with compatible mode. And I will build a second one that will have only support for Pydantic V2. Same library, okay, but it has multi-support. So we have these three cases. We have on the upper left, if you do pip install TK models, this is running Pydantic V1. Underneath, I can do as well pip install TK models and at the same time install Pydantic V2. And we are running Pydantic V2 with compatible mode. And on the top right, I define a TK models 2. So I can do pip install TK models 2, and this is pure Pydantic V2 with all the benefits from Rust. And the laptop could run until there. What was the impact for us? You remember I was saying no one noticed. Well, in reality, if you were upgrading, you notice. Maybe it's too small or the quality of the screen, but here we were running Pydantic V1, and here is Pydantic V2. We were having a latency of spikes of 1 second, and suddenly when Pydantic V2 went in, we have steadily a P95, the blue line, that is around 200 milliseconds. So there were actually changes. We are not just upgrading the library, we were benefiting from this change. So conclusions on this: incremental upgrades, slowly incrementing and giving support. breaking changes are difficult to handle, so try to reduce the number of breaking changes you are introducing. I know Pydantic V2 is coming, but hide them. Don't make your colleagues to suffer them. Collaboration and communication. Yes, I released this TK model for everyone to use in the company, but then I needed to work with them, giving them explanation on how to do it, when you do it. We monitor how it's going, the release, because there might be things that I could not cover. There were too many breaking changes. Future proofing. You need to choose the right tool at the right time. So this is important to be able to last longer. And that's it. Thank you very much. This is what you see here, our office in Barcelona. Amazing place. You are welcome to come there and say hi. And I will get you in to get a coffee. Thank you very much.
Pasamos a las preguntas.
Something that spiked my interest is the first two changes that you showed, the conditional imports and the wrapper of the decorator.
Yes.
Why didn't the Pydantic V2 already supported it? I mean, it's a change they could have done themselves, no?
I think many people from the community was asking for support, and they gave support. They gave a tooling for migrating, but they make a tooling for migrating, not for, hey, I want to support multiple versions. And you find this, what they did is this .v1 import that is running Pydantic V1, and at the same time they run a tooling that will transform your code to V2 compatible. Not foolproof, and it will work always, but they didn't thought about, what if I am half and half with one leg in V1, one leg in V2? No, I think they were thinking more of, you move to V2. They were, at the beginning, they didn't release, I was reading, not with V1 compatibility, but the people asked, hey, can I get some V1 compatibility? And then is when they introduced this V1. I saw even the issue on GitHub about, what about this, the ones that are in the middle of migration? Thank you. Oh, on the back.
Do you have a plan or a roadmap for phasing out the libraries with version 1 of Pydantic and backwards compatible?
Exactly. So where are we now? We have teams currently moving to V2. I'm a staff in a tribe, and I was pushing on my tribe for every team to move to V2. Can I move it completely when it's done? I think we were almost done by now, but there are many other tribes that I have to coordinate that they move to V2, and then I can start the cleaning up work. So it might take a while. This is the problem of not everyone can update at the same time. You have to go, negotiate with them. When can you do it? Can you find time? It's a difficult task coordinating this. So this is what I say, coordination is very important, because you might release the TK models library, but no one uses it.
Thank you, Alejandro. Yes, I would like to know if you had problems, or maybe you need to talk with your business team or with the product owner about the time, because I understand that this kind of migration always had problem because needs time, needs money. Did you show some metrics about the benefit before this migration, or how was your experience that?
How it started? Well, last year we were already having some services running in V2. The leadership on the tech side, which I'm part, we were discussing about we need to move to Pydantic V2 because all of these features that we're introducing. And then you start talking with all the engineering managers. It starts a conversation about we need to do this. We need to find time. This is important. And it's more on keeping this conversation for days, from weeks, because it doesn't happen right now. Oh, tomorrow we are doing it. Like you keep talking with them until it start, okay, let's coordinate with teams. And now you make it like a priority for these 3 months. It needs to happen. You will get into the quarter with this needs to happen. A lot of negotiation. Because sometimes the teams will say, I have another priority. I cannot do this upgrade. What is the inherent benefit of doing it right now? I'm not bringing value to the company or the platform by doing it now. So patience, a lot of patience.
Other questions?
Thank you, Alejandro. I have, in line with previous question, the library that we built, I'm part of TravelPerk as well, that library that you built actually reminds me a lot to 6, this package that Python had to, so you were importing from this and this was a wrapper, and depending on if you were using one version or the other, you could make code that was compatible with both Python versions at the same time, and using like one main if it was using one thing or the other. And I guess this is what people in the Pydantic community was asking for, this kind of library. So based on the work that TravelPerk has done, do you think that TravelPerk or the community in general could release such a library to ease the migration for other people?
I think you can share the strategies, because even Pydantic V2 released a tool that will upgrade your code to V2 compatible. But then making it automatic, there are many edge cases where you need to do the migration. I think it's more information on what to focus. Even when I released these sticky models, I was finding out issues. It could be in production, then immediately roll back if something is happening. Why is now this error appearing? Okay, roll back immediately. I think there is benefit on sharing, but automatic tooling, it will be a bit complicated, on my opinion. Because even the one that released didn't work fully. Sometimes they will say, you need to change this code. And it will not do it for me, but highlight that this is not compatible.
Some more questions? No? So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed.